But we pushed him out, so I think we're good to go. All right, well, I'm going to put down here, everyone should be able to hear me in the chat. Make sure me now. So if anyone, hopefully they see that message, because obviously if I'm talking, you can't hear me, then you wouldn't know that I'm talking. so hopefully we're good to go. But we had a few people respond early and said they can hear me, so I think we're good. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. This is our 2019 Q3. Yes, I am. Okay, I'm going to make sure I'm recording. Yes, I'm recording. Thank you, Kristen. So our 2019 Q3 NG911 GIS user group webinar. We've got some, as usual, a nice packed agenda for you to give you some updates on some things. I'll start things off and give updates on just the 911 project, the portal, and imagery. And then I'll pass it off to Sherry, who's going to talk about the GeoIMSAG and geospatial call routing. And then Kristen will give us an update on the NextGen 911 toolbox. And then we'll wrap up with some other like coming events and just some reminders of things. Okay. So, 911 project update, just some various things I wanted to cover, because I think there's been some confusion with same name issues, and I don't blame everyone, so I wanted to kind of go over all this. So the first thing is to remind everyone that the Q3 data submission deadline is coming up. That is end of this month, September 30th. So thank you to everyone who has already submitted, and we'll be looking forward to all the submissions coming through. So I'll send out a reminder. Usually I try to do that about 2 weeks before the deadline to remind everyone that that's coming up. So, okay, so the next thing I wanted to cover was Rapid Deploy and Rapid SOS. These are two different companies, but they're named very similarly. So here's the hook in with the Kansas 911 project. Rapid Deploy is actually the company that has created the mapping software called Radius Plus that will be replacing Vesta Locate. The Kansas 911 Coordinating Council approved this purchase, and so we're in the works right now of really behind the scenes developing the Kansas architecture. It's a cloud-based platform, so a lot of the behind-the-scenes processing and how data will be received by the mapping software program will be totally different than it is right now for Vesta Locate. We'll be moving to services or web maps as how Radius Plus will be receiving the data instead of static shape files. So it's really a nice modernization of the data, and really, I think, a more efficient way to keep the data up to date for the call handlers. But there is just some growing pains with that, and Rapid Deploy is kind of developing along with us to get this coordinated. So we've been doing some pilot testing. That has started. Rapid Deploy, at least a test version of it, is installed in Dickinson County. So we're working with Sherry Massey to do some testing there. Kristen's working with me here in DAS to help develop the services and web maps and the design of all that for Rapid Deploy. And also we're having weekly, sometimes twice a week, meetings with Rapid Deploy and AT&T and the 911 Coordinating Council members, the administrator and the liaison and project managers to talk about how this will look long term. So we don't have a deployment schedule yet, because there's still some things that need to be developed on the Rapid Deploy side as well as on the Kansas side to bring it all together. But we are working on a schedule for what the deployment will look like, training, implementation, and all those things. So I doubt any deployment will actually start before the end of the year. I think that was initially the goal, but we are definitely working to get that accomplished as soon as possible. So we'll keep you updated on the status of that development as we work on it. So basically, Rapid Deploy creates the new mapping software, Radius Plus, that will replace Vesta Locate. Okay, so then there's another product called Rapid SOS, and I think some of you have gotten emails from a contact from Rapid SOS, her name's Carrie, about getting a copy of your PSAT boundaries. So Rapid SOS is actually integrated into Rapid Deploy. It's an application or solution that pulls into your 911 software. And what it does, it helps more accurately locate callers by using millions of connected devices. So it's a way to more accurately locate cell phone callers, going away from the cell tower triangulations, actually using Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and different connections. It's basically taking advantage of all those connections that are available to better pinpoint the accuracy of where that caller is coming from. So that is a separate project, but it is integrated into Rapid Deploy, but they are two different companies, even though they're both called Rapid something. So it is a little bit confusing. So if you get another request for the PSAP boundaries, just go and forward those to me. Kristen has been working with Kara at Rapid SOS and actually with Ryan at Rapid Deploy, and we provided the statewide PSAP boundaries to both of them. I think there's just a little miscommunication on that, so we've kind of ironed out that process, even talked about how we're going to keep those boundaries updated to them. So, so you should not receive those emails anymore, but if you do, if your PSAP says, hey, I got this email from Rapid SOS about my PSAP boundaries, just have them either ignored or forwarded to me, and I'll respond and we'll take care of it. So be sure also, if you have questions, feel free to type them into the chat, because I know that's a lot of information with the Rapid this, Rapid that, but definitely as things develop with the installation and deployment of Rapid Deploy's Radius Plus software, we will be keeping you all in the loop on that.
Rapidly?
Yeah, we will rapidly update you. I know, just so much rapid. Oh, jeez. Okay. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is the 911 portal, another word that we use a lot in this office. Just to let you know, no major redesign or changes going on there, but we are moving some menu items around to improve efficiency. So, like I said, the biggest change is you might actually have to click twice on some things. I don't think, hopefully that won't be too earth-shattering. We found that a lot of our menu items, they were a click event, and we're having to change those to more of a drop-down to allow for future development and growth with the program. So there's some reorganizing going on there. The way it's being reorganized kind of depends on user access and groups and things like that. So trying to keep all the GIS stuff together. At this time, I don't think the upload GIS data link on the menu bar is going to change, because I'm like, that one's people are used to, let's leave it alone. So I think that's going to stay there. But like the GIS FAQs and how people go in and request GIS data, a few things like that might move around a little bit until we find the best fit for those. So nothing has been removed. If you sign onto the portal and you're like, oh, I clicked on that and that's not there anymore, just we will send an announcement when we kind of get all things settled, but it should just be a drop-down menu, or maybe it's moved into another more common menu item. So really just some efficiencies and improvements going on there with the portal. Okay, and then imagery. So wanted to make sure everyone knew about the 2018 Next Gen 911 imagery. That imagery service is hosted by Hexagon Baltus, and they are actually moving, Hexagon is moving the hosting of that from Baltus to Amazon Cloud as of September 15th. So I sent out an announcement to everyone who had a user account that used this imagery service, as well as our GIS stewards and maintainers on the portal. So if you use this imagery service, really the main thing, and the email outlined all this, is that you need to update your connections before September 15th. None of the credentials have changed, so your username is the same, your password is the same, that all works fine. If you did not receive a notification and you think you have already signed up for this service, go and email me, and I will forward the content and the instructions to you. This is basically if you want to bring in an imagery service into your, pro or map project and view it that way instead of requesting the data for download. If you requested the data for download and that works for you, then you might not use this service. So either way, if you're a current user and didn't receive the email notification, or you think you are, email me and I'll let you know. Or if you were like, oh, I've been meaning to sign up for that, and you'd like to request access to the imagery service, just go and submit a data request. And I've got some slides after this to show you how to do that as well. So that's for the 2018 imagery. That's the newest 911 imagery. Just a reminder, the 2014 statewide Next Gen 911 imagery is publicly available through the DAS catalog. So that is available. You can download that or use that service at any time. So you don't need any credentials or need to connect to Hexagon for the 2014 imagery. And really the final thing about imagery is that the local imagery buy-up option is still available for the 2020 flying season. So we've had, gosh, probably 12 to 15 different jurisdictions take advantage of this in the last 2 flying seasons. So if you are interested in getting some imagery flown for your certain area or cities or county, whatever area you need, feel free to contact Tim Donzi at Surdex for more information and for the pricing of that option. Okay, so if you would like to request access to the 2018 imagery service, you just need to fill out a data request. So this is how you would fill out a request even if you wanted to download the data. Once you, in the DAS data catalog, navigate to the NextGen 911 high resolution ortho imagery, log in and click on the online request form link here. So you're in this particular spot in the catalog, and this is where you can actually fill out the online request form. So after you click that, the form will come up, and then the main difference here is if you want access to the map service and file format, that's what you want to select is map service. You can also, if you get in here like, oh, I've been meaning to request the SIDS, I want to download those or something else, this gives you the different options so you can decide at that time. And we're also put it out there so that the data is delivered to us in Mr. SID Generation 4 format, but if you do need it converted to Mr. SID Generation 3 format, that is now an option under file format, so you can submit that request.
Which, if you're using CAD, or if your partial editor or something is using CAD, CAD can't use Generation 4, so that's the case where you need to bring it in. You need to bring it in Gen 3 SIDS instead.
Yeah, it's funny what you discover once you roll out
yeah.
New data that, oh, can't use it in some data packages. So yeah, that is an option now too. So map service, or if you want a certain Gen 3 or Gen 4 Mr. SID, that's available here. And then once you submit that, of course, you have to accept the license agreement because the 2018 imagery is a licensed product. Accept that, and then we'll respond to you with the instructions or link or whatever, however you requested it. Okay, I think for that, I'm ready to turn to Sherry. Are there any questions? Again, don't forget about the chat window if you have any questions as we're going through here. I will unmute Sherry here. Let her take over. Okay, Sherry, you should be live.
Fantastic. All right. So this, of course, is the GeoMSAG and Geospatial Call Routing Update. It's nice to be there instead of at the remediation stuff, so that's good news. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Currently, we have 90 PSAPs that have switched out their MSAGs for GeoMSAGs. The 90th one is actually in process right now. That's Smith County, and that is the last. So unless another PSAP comes onto the hosted solution that isn't currently on it, we will not have any more GeoMSAG conversions to accomplish. So you've heard me talk a few times about geospatial call routing, and in the last quarterly update, I told you then that it would be the next month. And then what happened in the next 4 weeks is that we got notified that there was still a pretty catastrophic problem in the software and that it would not be implemented. So we are holding on while Motorola works out the software issue. And in case anybody's curious, the system actually works pretty well, but what is not happening right now is if we had turned the software on, the 911 dispatcher would not see the telephone number of a cell phone caller. For some reason, when they did the upgrade to accommodate the new type of data that comes through with NextGen 911, they introduced an error that wiped that data out. So it will not be implemented until that problem is fixed, and that time frame for that fix is not set. So it is coming, but until that problem is fixed, we're not going to be moving to geospatial. So how that is actually going to work is still the same as the last time that I reported it. Reno County will transition first as the pilot, and then they will have a test period through which AT&T will make sure everything is working as it should, and then other PSAPs will begin transitioning. At that point, PSAPs will start using the geospatial call routing style of seeing data, and that means that they will be seeing the display field of your emergency service boundary layers, instead of the ESN number and the English language translations from tables that AT&T has. The ESNs do have to be maintained in our data because they're a backup for the routing system should anything go wrong with geospatial. But it's important to know that that display field in your emergency service boundary layer will become very visible. And for some people that might be just a little bit of a shock because they're very used to either the formatting or the way agencies are named in the tables AT&T has right now, whereas what you put in might have been a little more clear text or have a slightly different name. So anticipate that that field is going to get some scrutiny and that you may want to just kind of run it by PSAP people just to be sure that it makes sense to them and it's what they'd prefer to see. Also, it has a reduced character limit. The NENA standard is 60 characters. The Kansas standard is 60 characters. The phone software has a 32 character limit. So the toolbox is giving a notice on this. If your field is longer than 32 characters, it just notifies you that the field is going to not display properly in the 911 software. Right now, it is our understanding that it is truncated. So you'll see the first 32 characters and the rest of it will fall away if you happen to accidentally have one longer or you forget to make a change. But until the test happens, we're not going to be 100% on that. Can you go to the next slide? I wanted to briefly discuss with you guys, like it says, the care and feeding of a GeoMSAG. This has been a transition for all of us in how we think about how we maintain MSAG data and how we think about how we maintain our GIS data. And we've run into a few hiccups. And one of those hiccups is that while we pushed data up to West Safety Services, which has changed their name to Intrado, through an automated manner, at the very end of their process of creating a GeoMSAG, it went from an automated process to a by-hand process. And as you might imagine, with over 500,000 entries going in by hand, there have been some mistakes. Now, for the most part, the data went in clean, but we are working on a QA process to be able to do a comparison between the existing GeoMSAGs and our existing roads just to trap any errors that are out there that have not yet been found. A few of you have contacted me in the past going, you know, this address is in my data, or this address range is in my data. I don't understand why the phone company says they can't find it. And we have found about 10 now road records that are in the road data but didn't end up in the GeoMSAG at the initial conversion. And so that's what we're really testing for in this QA process. Once we have results from this process and we go through them and identify what kind of issues they are, we'll be taking this up with Intrado and AT&T. This is not something that you guys have to fix. This is something that once we identify them, unless we have a clarifying question for you, you probably won't have to have any real part in it. We'll just be communicating directly with AT&T and Intrado, and they will have to fix it on their end. If we do find that any county has a particularly high number of issues, we'll certainly let you know that's the case and let you know about the progress of going on. But I imagine that most places will end up with just one or two and it'll be fixed pretty quick. The other, can you pop back for just a second? Thanks. The other thing that I just wanted to touch base on is telephone exchange. I've talked about this a couple of times before, but I continue to get calls about it, so I know that you guys are still having to deal with it. Local phone companies prefer to see exchange information, and what exchange information is it is a 3 or 4 character identifier that sits on an MSAG record saying what telephone company has the competitive right to provide landline service in that range. Now, this is not part of the data that we maintain. It's not part of your road data. It's not something that we've asked of you. It is something that AT&T maintains. But where we did these big switch outs for the GeoMSAG, AT&T didn't always put that information back in there accurately, and sometimes it's difficult to be accurate with it because 2 or 3 phone companies might give service in the same small area. So they're still working through some of that. What you're going to hear most likely is that a local phone company, a small phone company, can't find the record they're looking for even though you're looking at your screen and you know that it's right there. And the reason they can't find it is probably because they're filtering or searching only for those things that are in their exchange. So if AT&T put the wrong exchange on it or put an alternate exchange on it, they're not seeing it, not because the address isn't in the system, but because of how they're choosing to filter. This is an issue between them and AT&T. And if you run into any situations like this and you need any kind of assistance, you can always talk with me or forward the email to me or whatever, and I will work between the phone company and AT&T to try to get that resolved. The final issue is that I really wanted to give you guys an explanation of the amount of time it takes between when you submit data and when it ends up in your GeoMSAG, because this has come up as an issue for a couple of counties. You guys have all heard me talk about it before. It's something that we anticipated from the beginning, but it's something that doesn't matter how much you anticipate, not everybody's quite ready for. So if we could go to the next slide. The steps for getting from your submission to a GeoMSAG. First, you submit data through the NG911 portal. Then validation scripts are run. And if the data passes and you have flagged any road or address data as having changes when you did the initial submission, then the transformation to EGDMS data begins. So the validation tests run. If you said, yes, I have changes in my roads, or yes, I have changes in my address points, then that data gets transformed for EGDMS. Any address points that are flagged as GeoMSAG equals yes are turned into the small road centerline records that we jokingly call plines. And then all of your changed data is pushed into, well, all of your data, if you have had changes, I guess is a better way to put that, is pushed into the statewide road data for EGDMS. Then it has to be submitted to EGDMS, and that happens on Monday or the first working day of the week. If you believe you need a push before that, if you've submitted data, say Monday afternoon or Tuesday, and you don't want to wait the week for it to be pushed up because you've got something someone's waiting on, you can always notify us and we can push the data up again. We're happy to do that, but right now the weekly pace is how we have it at standard. So the next Monday or first day of the week, the push is created in the morning and all of the updates are submitted to EGDMS. Next slide. Then EGDMS runs its validations. So this takes right now about 7 hours. That's 7 hours from when we give it to them until they decide how much of it they will accept and push forward into the geospatial call routing system and into the GeoMSAG. Then, once the validations are completed, the GeoMSAG affecting changes are selected, because not every change you make to your data affects the GeoMSAG. But they find the ones that will, and they begin the process of creating the change requests and implementing the change requests. And this whole process can take between 1 and 2 business days. They are automating this process, but there's still a likelihood that it's going to be a solid business day because the automated process will create the requests, but the final stage of that is still going to be a final implementation by a person, and they may do that in batch. They may be doing it really quickly, but they want to basically do a sanity test and make sure that the automated system isn't introducing anything that makes no sense into the system. So when you take all of that and you add it together, if you submit on Monday afternoon, after we have already done that weekly EGDMS submission, then you're looking at least 8 business days before you see that data. If you submit Monday morning before we pull the data for EGDMS, you're looking at least 2 business days before you see that data in your GeoMSAG. So understanding that that delay is there, that it is improving in certain spots, but there is a fundamental delay built in that is just always going to be there. It's always going to be at least 2 days between when you put your data in and when it shows up in the GeoMSAG, no matter how automated the process becomes. So I wanted to, like I said, I wanted to kind of go through that. And if anybody has any questions, you're welcome to put them in the chat or any concerns. But that is what is happening with your data, why it takes so long, and how long I believe it's going to take in the future. I think I've got one more slide if you could. No, I don't. So it is off to Kristen. Thank you guys very much.
Okay, I've muted Sherry, but be sure and type any questions you have in the chat because we're all on the call till the end. So if you still have some questions come in mind, just go ahead and pop them in there. So now I will hand it over to Kristen for the toolbox update.
Okay, toolbox update is pretty short this time around. So the latest version was released in July and fixed few topology quirks that were identified. And now the topology validation should be easier to work with. And that's the toolbox update. So really short and sweet. Let's see. So a couple other things. I've been working a lot with Sherry to get the GeoMSAG analysis up and running. It is honestly a lot of the same code that's in the MSAG to Red Center Line comparison tool. We just have to do it in a statewide format instead of one county at a time. So comparing the GeoMSAG to the NG911 Red Center Line. And it just finished, and it's just totally nerdy because I added multiprocessing on an Amazon virtual machine. So instead of it running on my computer in a week, it ran on Amazon in 5 hours. And I'm really happy with that. And it's really nerdy, but it was kind of cool. And that's the toolbox update.
Yeah, you just want to see Kristen very happy. Talk about processes and running quicker and everything. Yeah, she was very happy with that.
Yeah.
The option of doing it in the cloud, more processing speed was available.
That was great.
Yeah. Okay, good. So that's for Toolbox. Okay, I just have a few upcoming events I wanted to mention. Just so you know that either whether this is GIS related or PSAP related, these are things coming up in Kansas. So the first thing is the Kansas Fall APCO Conference, which is the Association of Public Safety Communications Officials. So generally your PSAP administrators, a lot of your call handlers, PSAP personnel go to this particular conference. Generally on the GIS side, Sherry, Ken, and I are at this conference because there's a 911 coordinating council meeting, as well as any sessions we might need to support. Sometimes I'm not doing this time, but there's sometimes we talk about the portal, or we'll just sit in on sessions if they're talking about certain functions that happen on the portal that we support. The main reason I wanted to bring this up today is that Rapid Deploy, again, who's the new mapping software, will be at APCO this year doing demos. So there's a good chance, even if you don't go, your PSAPs are going to come back and say, oh, wow, I saw this mapping thing. When do we get that? Or what do you know about it, or whatever. So just want to give you a heads up that demos will be happening. It won't be with any of our Kansas data at this point, since, like I said, the background, the architecture and the services and all that, and basically how Rapid Deploy handles that is still under development. But at least PSAP personnel will be able to see and look at Rapid Deploy to see what's coming to replace Vesta Locate. So I just want to let you know that will be happening in October. And of course, I always have to plug the CAM conference, the Kansas Association of Mappers Conference. That is October 15th through the 18th at the Orient Hotel in Lawrence. Sherry, and actually along with Kristen doing the toolbox, will be doing the GIS Data Maintainer certification class on Tuesday, October 15th in the morning. That is free. You do not have to register for the conference to attend that class. So if you go to the CAM website, which I have a link there, And you can actually sign up for that without signing up for the conference. So, but if you do plan on attending, please register just so we get a head count on who all's coming to that class. And then the other option, the other session that will be happening is our Q4 GIS user group meeting. We always do that. That's kind of our standing in-person meeting during the CAM conference. I haven't been told exactly the date and time on that, but that is an actual conference session. So if you're attending CAM, please come join us at the user group, because for sure Chris and I will be there, and if we have any other updates like this, we will be sure to let you know, because that'll be after APCO. So if I've learned anything new, information there, then I'll be, we want to share that with you at CAM. So some updates there. Another event is there's a Kansas Next Gen 911 Admin Day, and that's put on by, of course, the 911 Recording Council. It's organized by Lori Alexander, who's the 911 liaison. And the idea there is similar to this. It's a project update for the PSAPs, and primarily really the PSAP managers or administrators, just to do a overview of various things going on in the project, updates, and getting everyone in the same room to talk about it. So that's happening in November. So again, if you have someone from your PSAP, go to that. They might come back with questions or information for you. That's, I believe, November 13th. And then the final thing I want to mention is that we had a request from the Oklahoma a GIS committee or Next Gen 911 GIS committee, I'm not exactly sure, to meet with a few of us on the GIS side to talk about what we've done here in Kansas, so they can kind of compare what they're doing in Oklahoma. So we're working on setting up that meeting, and we'll probably be meeting with them. I imagine that'll probably happen in October too, because why not? So, so that'll be interesting. We've been really trying to reach out to our border states to collaborate, and you know, for better or worse, we're kind of ahead of the game here on a lot of the implementation and GIS standards and things. So we definitely want to work with them, especially for our border counties that border in other states, so we can bring everyone together and collaborate our efforts. Everyone in the office is making fun of me now. So. You wish you could see behind the scenes here, but okay. So there's a lot of stuff coming up, and you know, I always like to keep you updated on whether it's a conference you're attending or someone from your PSAP. Well, you might have some questions after those events. And really, my final slide is the usual thank you for attending, and just a reminder. All content and things are available on the Kansas 911 Coordinating Council website. We also push out the content onto the DASC Initiatives Next Gen 911 webpage. So if there's ever, and of course then there's different things on the portal, so if there's ever anything you're looking for, that you're like, gosh, it'd be nice if there's a link to that or a how-to for that or something of that nature, just drop us a line, and we'll either, you know, put together a document, or I know Chris has put together some training videos, but we can work on some things to make sure everyone's getting the information they need. So with that, I don't see any questions in the chat. You've been a quiet group today. So let me just, I'm going to unmute Sherry to make sure she didn't have any final comments on, Sherry, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
I did not. Just thank you for listening.
Okay, well with that, we will adjourn for the day, so thank you for attending. I will put the slides and the recording of this webinar up on those two websites. The recording takes a little while to process, so I should probably have that up in the next couple of days. So feel free to contact us if you have any questions. Thank you.